Yeah, NPR did not ask for this fight, but now that they're being attacked by the White House, they are hitting back. And this lawsuit is going to have ramifications, possibly for PBS as well, because Trump is trying to strip funding both from NPR as well as its TV counterpart at PBS. The White House's argument here, as has been expressed all outlets are biased, that they are favoring the left. Here's today's statement from White House spokesman Harrison Fields. He says, outlets like NPR are, quote, creating media to support a particular political party on the taxpayer's dime. Therefore, the president is exercising his lawful authority to limit funding for NPR and PBS. There is already litigation underway about whether Trump actually has this lawful authority, because the way that public broadcasting was set up by Congress in the 1960s, it was set up to make sure that no president could interfere in this way. So there are already legal battles underway on that side. Now, here you have NPR saying it's a First Amendment violation. You might be wondering why. How is it a First Amendment violation? Well, it has to do with something called viewpoint discrimination. I spoke with one of NPR's lawyers earlier today. They say that because the White House is alleging bias, which NPR denies, but because the White House is alleging bias, it's a form of viewpoint discrimination.
We've talked about this quite a bit over the last few weeks. This is going to have some impacts. Let's talk about those impacts on public broadcasting.
Right. The public broadcasting portion is $1.1 billion. It's the smaller portion, but it is the only portion where funding is completely eliminated. All of the funding for public broadcasting for the next 2 years is eliminated here. Very significant. Now, their CEO has put out a statement saying this is a risk to public safety because of potential cuts to emergency broadcasts, for example, and also PBS's CEO, Paula Kerger, put out a statement today as well. She wrote, these cuts will significantly impact all of our stations, but will be especially devastating to smaller stations and those serving large rural areas. We put together a map using Corporation of Public Broadcasting data of the rural stations most at risk. These are stations around the country where they depend on 40% or more of their funding from the federal government. These are the ones most at risk. You see
I looked at that map when I was putting this video together, and it stunned me because everybody's saying nobody's going to be able to know if there's a hurricane or a tornado coming through because they live in a cave. And, they made it seem like there was this grand amount of people that have to have PBR in order to survive. And then they showed this map, and I'm like, seriously? You're talking, those small places right there? Wait, these people live in trees? Do they not have internet? Is there no connection? They can't get Starlink? This is absurd. So what we're going to see today is finally, after a long time of people haggling and wrangling and screaming and gnashing of teeth, the funding for NPR, PBS, and USAID go bye-bye. All of it. Gone. Billions upon billions and billions of dollars completely off into the ether. And what we're looking at right now is a left-wing funeral. Let's just call it what it is. They have lost so many of their gravy trains. Again, they are so feckless to the point where they're coming up with stupid articles that President Trump drew naked women on a pad and sent it to Epstein. And it just happened to come out right now. Shut up. These people are desperate. It's going away, and they can't do anything about it.
Large number of them in Alaska, but they're all over the country, notably not on the eastern seaboard, really not in major cities. These are the rural areas that are in trouble or could have trouble. What will happen with these stations? Well, it is going to be a months-long progress. I know a lot of our viewers are watching on those stations right now, and each station will have to sort out how they move forward, what their needs are. Do they depend more on their viewers? Do they work together with other stations?
Now, interesting she said that. As I watched this video, and I've watched the hearings, you're telling me people in these areas rely on NPR, and she just said they're watching. Either they're watching on YouTube, or they're watching on the internet, or they're watching on television. But in any case, you're telling me that people who live in those areas don't have a remote that can turn to another channel. Maybe the Weather Channel. Maybe instead of listening to NPR and PBS, you could turn to the click. Oh, there's a Weather Channel. Hey, honey, there's a whole channel here with weather on it. We're supposed to believe that NPR and PBS are essential for the safety of people in certain areas. And I'm like, my gosh, what kind of IQ or lack of an IQ would you have to listen to this drivel? I can watch stuff in England. My wife is watching a show on the BBC. What in the hell do you mean that, oh, if it's not NPR, we got no way of knowing if there's a storm coming? That's when you can smell the desperation.
Can they survive this? It is a critical historical moment for stations that have been around for generations. Now, there is one other piece of reporting I want to raise. There was a side deal that I have reporting on made by Don Bacon of Nebraska, who voted yes, ultimately, there he is, for this deal that had to do with PBS funding. Now, here's what he told me earlier this month about the side deal. He said, quote, I got a commitment to make sure PBS is funded this year from Speaker Johnson, and I trust the Speaker. That commitment supposedly is to take place in September, but there are real questions about how that works. He again told me today they do trust the Speaker. We will have to see.
Public media, separately, there's also...
By the way, these people are on public television, and that's why they realize at this point, send the resume out, honey. Yo, bro, send your resume out. You're going to need to. Maybe start a podcast. I don't know, to do something. But you're not getting us to pay for it anymore. You see, that's one of the problems with this entire thing. At 2:30, when President Trump comes out and he drops the hammer on these people, which incidentally was the name of the operation they did in Iran. It seems like Operation Sledgehammer, or whatever it is still going on. You see, the House voted 216 to 213 last night to give final passes to the bill, and it's going to cut $9 billion in spending, and the spending that was already in place. That's why they had to do this thing called the rescissions package. Rescind it. They had to take it back. That's what rescission means. So a lot of you guys may have not known that this isn't money that they're not going to give. This is money that they're clawing back. That's a big distinction in the entirety of this whole new law that they're doing. Now, interestingly enough, they said it was for 2 years because it's a rescission package. So now, during this 2-year term, they're going to have to go back in and actually get all of it done so it doesn't get reappropriated in the future, especially if a Democrat takes over, because they'll do it in an instant. These cuts are aimed at public media and foreign aid, and it was passed late last night. If you were up at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, you would have saw them vote on this just last night, and it was one day after, literally 24 hours after, the Senate voted 51 to 48 at like 2 a.m. on Thursday to approve the measure, late Wednesday night, Thursday. And the two Republicans, one of them she just mentioned right there, and this time a couple of Democrats. The Republicans were Mike Turner and the other idiot from Pennsylvania, Brian Fitzpatrick. They decided they didn't want this. The measure also cuts $1.1 billion from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which provides funding for NPR and PBS. But most importantly, which a lot of people are missing, it cuts $8 billion. Out of the $9 billion in cuts, $1 billion to the NPR PBS and $8 billion to USAID. That's done. Most of it's done. There's still some small stuff that goes out to some countries that are in dire straits. But $8 billion has been clawed back that has already been approved. Future funding is already at risk. So that's a good thing, a very, very, very good thing. It stops, the global health scam. It stops refugee assistance. And I don't know if you guys saw today, which I'm going to show probably tomorrow, RFK Jr. is now just coming out and pounding the WHO and all the stuff, that crazy stuff that they have done. So while everybody else is scurrying and trying to figure out this other crap, President Trump is getting stuff done. There's no denying it at this point. This package that they just cut this $9 billion from passed both chambers. It is a done deal. They've got the votes, and people are pissed off because it's only Republican votes. But to the winners go the spoil. And by using the rescissions package, they didn't have to go to the 60 vote threshold, which I don't think anything ever again in our American history is ever going to happen. I don't think because of where we sit as a country that we're ever going to see 60 votes for anything. Maybe they'll vote 60 votes to get themselves their own raise. They'll pass that. Oh yeah, they'll pass that. And anything, to reject term limits, they'll pass that. But all the stuff the American people need, we're never going to see a 60 vote margin ever again. So all of this stuff here, it slashes especially the woke, wasteful stuff. It's done. It's finished. This is going to be a turn in America unlike something we've seen probably in the last decade. It's incredible, taking billions, billions of dollars off of the table. I love it. I love it. I love it. So don't get comfortable. Well, you can get a little bit comfortable, but there's more to come. $9 billion I'm not going to say is a drop in the bucket. That's a lot of money. And I'm sure, Mike Johnson and John Thune are going to work on some of the other things because they've already said there's more rescission packages coming. The Democrats can't stop this train. The only thing that can stop this train are Republicans. That's it. You have to feel very comfortable in the fact that they are of no relevance at this point, and the only thing that can possibly derail the Trump train are so-called Trump supporters and rhinos. But even they are being negated completely. So let's continue listening to some of this drivel. Oh, gosh.
As you've reported quite a bit, so much about foreign aid in this bill. You did report earlier this week how PEPFAR, the HIV/AIDS program, was pulled out of that, but there are still major cuts for foreign aid. Tell us about that. Right.
Those cuts to PEPFAR, those are off the table now. That program will survive completely intact right now. But let's take a look at those other cuts in foreign aid. Now, $4 billion of that is economic and democratic programs, really fostering democracy in other countries, as well as the economies of countries where the United States is worried about potential economic or political collapse. $800 million is for shelter, water needs, sanitation, and also family reunification. $500 million for countries facing natural disasters. Again, some of those basic needs. So while we've been talking about PEPFAR and HIV, these are also day-to-day living needs, and this is money that will be cut off as soon as the president signs this bill.
As soon as he signs this bill, they're trying to guilt us into saying all these people here are going to die, millions and gazillions of people. Well, we are empathy. We definitely have empathy. We have sympathy. We don't want to see everybody die. But now it's going to be different. You're not just going to take our money because you're raising taxes and everything else. If we want to help another country, number one, show us this country and what we're going to be doing for it. I'm pretty sure the American people are very, very giving. We've seen it time and time again. Instead of just taking our money and then misappropriating it in country over there somewhere that we can't find on a map, we could actually see somebody getting some good. I mean, people like Samaritan's Purse. I think we need to have more agencies that are not part of the government where they're actually taking videos showing you people they're giving water and food, and it's not going to some warlord or some politician. That's why they're upset. The American people would help if you choose to. You don't have to be forced to. But we've seen time and again how people respond to, even way back in the day with Jerry Lewis telethons. But now people are smarter with their money because they know they've been ripped off by our government. And we're going to need very, very strong, trustworthy agencies and companies that will go over and help people. At this point, people don't even trust the Red Cross. That's why people like, with Franklin Graham's Samaritan Purse, which I support and I give to as well, is because I saw it firsthand with Robin's relatives up in North Carolina during Hurricane Helene. They were on the spot before FEMA got there. So sorry, NPR, you can talk all you want, but we've seen the theft. We've seen the waste.
There are longer-term implications to this, right?
Yes, there are significant longer-term implications, and I'm very happy to talk about them, because what this is doing is it is setting in motion an entirely new way of funding, using government's funding power. We expect, as soon as this is signed, maybe more rescissions offers from the president, more requests. And what this does is all of the funding that is being cut here was passed by Congress with 60 votes in the Senate, but it's being cut by just over 50 votes. So it's changing the dynamic so that the White House has the funding power. The Senate's 60-vote margin really is not as important anymore. So
you got a problem with that? I don't think so. I think we trust President Trump and his cabinet to do much better than the Democrats and even some of these Republicans out there. She's upset with the fact that it puts more power in Trump's hands. Well, that's what we voted for. We want to know where the money's going. I'm shocked when people don't want to. See, that'd be something that you have to begin thinking about is, okay, you're against this. You'd rather continue funding these agencies that you have no idea where the money's going, and after you already have found out that Wally the Nigerian is sending out checks all over the place, you're okay with that? You can't possibly be okay with that. This is definitely propaganda.
What the president can do here is just continue to cut, no matter what Congress spends. It is yet another shift toward presidential power.
Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
It's evolved, okay, because they dragged your ass into Congress. This is Catherine Mayer talking to Brandon Gill, who we've had on the show, and we talked to him about exactly this in terms this interchange he's having with Catherine Mayer. She's the president of NPR. And this little exchange here is just gold, absolute gold, how he shreds her.
Why did you tweet that?
I don't recall the exact context, sir, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay. Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
You tweeted about it. You said you took a day off to fully read The Case for Reparations. You put that on Twitter in January of 2020.
Apologies, I don't recall that I did.
Okay.
I no doubt that your tweet there is correct, but I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you believe that white people inherently feel superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't? You tweeted something to that effect. You said, I grew up feeling superior. How white of me. Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
It sounds like.
Oh, did you just realize it? It always cracks me up with all these liberals who went to private school with me and then go to different kind of colleges and have lived their entire lives up until what? When Trump comes in office, now all of a sudden, oh, I have white privilege. You didn't know it before? You didn't say to yourself, wow, I'm sitting in this prep school and there's a whole lot of hungry black kids around town. Screw them. I'm having fun here. And then you go to some elite college and you're like, wow, this is awesome. I'm at Yale and Harvard and Dartmouth and Cornell. This is great. Didn't hear you talking about the Gazans back then. Didn't hear you talking about Hamas. Didn't hear you talking about free Palestine. Didn't hear you talking about your white privilege back then. And that was easy because you looked around and it wasn't nothing but white people, but you had no problem with that. That's where this whole thing just falls apart for me. Just now, in the last couple of years, this woman, I believe, she's in her 50s, and some of the people you see online and in the media, just now, you're just now evolving, is the word she used. You're just now realizing I got white privilege. Didn't matter to you when you got hired at $250,000 a year. You said, I can't take that much money. It's white privilege. Just pay me like $80 and give the rest away. Nope, you didn't say that. But now you want everyone to believe you're so virtuous and you so care about the black people and the poor Hispanics and everybody else, and somebody else needs to take care of them. You taxpayers, okay? Don't cut my money. Not in my backyard. I need my $250,000 a year in my limo. But I'm just going to keep those privileges, all right? You can have the white. I don't need the white. I need the green privilege. Let's call it for what it is. They don't give a crap about white privilege. They don't care about black people. It's the green that they're freaking out about. That green privilege way overweighs the white privilege. That's the one they don't want taken away. Because if she was worried about the white privilege, she wouldn't have had to go to Dartmouth or Harvard or some private school someplace. She wouldn't need the penthouse in the sky. She wouldn't need the limo. Give it all away. Give it to the po people. No, as long as the taxpayers are paying for it, that's different. I'll take that. I'll just tell you my white privilege is bad. But you don't even act on it. It's all complete BS.
You're saying that white people feel superior.
I don't believe that anybody feels that way, sir. I was just reflecting on my own experiences.
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I have never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, "Yes, the North. Yes, all of us. Yes, America. Yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt. Yes, reparations. Yes, on this day."
I don't believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations, sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
I think it was just a reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
That's
all right, so right now, let me just tell you this. I'd like to, I don't know how many people are watching right now. I don't know how many subscribers there are right now, but as a black man, I think all of you who are white right now need to dig deep and understand I've been oppressed and I need some reparations. I would like a Cybertruck, so I'd like you all to get together and do something at a local dealership and start pitching in and get me your Cybertruck. Get me my Cybertruck because you must feel the guilt of your whiteness. I need some reparations. It's absurd. I can't even believe when people talk about reparations. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I never, ever got whipped. Well, a little bit, Mom. I never had to go out and work and bale hay. Nope. I didn't even get to sleep in the big house. What in the hell are you talking about reparations? Yes, things happened. There are slaves. There were slaves. How about worrying about the slaves now? See, this always comes back to the trafficking and everything else. I'm like, what? How about the reparation instead of taking care of people who had nothing to do with slavery or being brought over on a boat? How about taking care of the people and really putting an emphasis on finding out the kids and people who are slaves right now? Nope, they don't talk about that. While this whole Epsteinian nightmare was happening over the last week or so, did anybody say at any time from any of these networks, you know what, maybe it's time, since everything's in the forefront here, we should start looking for kids? If you saw that anywhere, send me a link, because that should open your eyes. Nobody said anything. Hey, let's release, hey, I gotta release the files, gotta do, and I'm like, how about the current stuff? Anybody care about what's happening with kids right now? Didn't hear one person on any network or on X say that. And I don't know if you guys know how to do an X search or Twitter search, but if you ever learn how to do one of those searches, your eyes are going to open up to a whole new thing where you can begin checking and seeing if any of your congressperson has said anything about X or Y or Z subject. And I can tell you, because I searched, none of them did. None. And definitely nobody in the media.
A bizarre way to frame what you tweeted. Okay, how much reparations have you personally paid?
Sir, I don't believe that I've ever paid reparations.
Okay, it's just for everybody else.
I'm not asking anyone
Seems
to pay
to be what you're
reparations, sir.
suggesting. Do you believe that looting is morally wrong?
I believe that looting is illegal, and I refer to it as counterproductive. I think it should be prosecuted.
Do you believe it's morally wrong, though?
Of course.
Of course. Then why did you refer to it as counterproductive? It's a very different way to describe it.
It is both morally wrong and counterproductive, as well as being illegal.
You tweeted, it's hard.
So I have a question, and this is a serious question. This woman runs NPR. You got to think she's got some sort of intelligence. She understands that stuff on the internet stays on the internet. She had to have known all this stuff that I've spewed over the last few years, it's still out there. So I'm going to go to Congress, I'm going to show up at this hearing, and I'm going to get grilled by these congressmen and congresswomen. And they're going to say, hey, did you eat liver? Nah, I hate liver. Well, hey, back in 21, you said you love liver. It's all out there. How did this woman not have the self-awareness to say, okay, I've put a lot of crap out there, and maybe in my opening statement I can nuke what's going to happen to me. I'm going to open my statement by saying, you know, I know that you guys are probably going to talk about a lot of stuff that I put out there, a lot of crazy stuff about reparations and looting and everything else. Yeah, I was playing a role. I was acting. I was trying to help the little poor black people get, love me. So none of it is true. Okay, cop to that. But then now you just look stupid.
Be mad about protests in reference to the BLM protests, not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression. You didn't condemn the looting. You said that it was counterproductive. NPR also promoted a book called In Defense of Looting. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I'm unfamiliar with that book, sir, and I don't believe that was at my time at NPR.
You tweeted that you read that book.
I don't believe that I did read that.
Mr. President.
Over and over and over. And when I had Brandon Gill on the show, and I was like, because at some point he felt sorry for her. Because you could just see she was a wounded animal up there. She's like almost defeated. Like, all right, you got me, man. You got me. I'm completely full of it. Can we please stop this, man? I'm just wounded here and I'm bleeding, and you're exposing me as a complete fraud who deserves to have their money taken away from them. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Broadcasting has long been overtaken by partisan activists, plain and simple. This isn't just an abstract critique. NPR and PBS have revealed their left-wing bias time and time again. When blowing the whistle on NPR, Yuri Berliner, a former senior editor, himself a left-wing Democrat, wrote that, quote, NPR has always had a liberal bent. An open-minded spirit no longer exists within NPR. We don't have an audience that reflects America. Exhibit A. After the New York Post broke the Hunter Biden laptop story, NPR ran political cover for the Democrats, refusing to cover the story. Quote, we don't want to waste listeners' and readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions. Mind you.
To refresh your memories, what Ted Cruz just said there is absolutely true. The propaganda machine was so cranked up to make sure that nobody... Don't look over here. This Hunter Biden stuff, not true. We got to get Joe in. No, we're not even going to cover it. It's a distraction. That right there tells you they were the antithesis of being a free media. They were working on behalf of the Democrats. Nothing could be clearer with other than understanding that. And there's news coming out right now, and Tulsi Gabbard is releasing it, that's beginning to further the information in terms of scam that Barack Obama and his administration were executing on the American people. They kept it hidden, and now it's all coming out. See, they asked for the Epsteinian stuff. They're getting the whole kit and caboodle now. And they didn't expect that this was going to happen. They thought it was just going to be this stuff, right? Oh, no. They've been working behind the scenes, and all of it is coming out.
The story was true. That's why they didn't want to cover it. As for PBS, its coverage of last year's DNC was only 12% negative. The RNC, a staggering 72% negative. If you want to watch left-wing propaganda, turn on MSNBC. But the taxpayers should not be forced to subsidize it. I urge a no vote on this amendment.
These are not honest news organizations. These are partisan left-wing outlets that are funded by the taxpayers. And this administration does not believe it's a good use of the taxpayers' time and money. The NPR, unfortunately, has become really just a propaganda voice for the left. Just a few examples for you. In 2020, NPR refused to cover the Hunter Biden laptop scandal in the run-up to the election. They said their assertions don't amount to much, writing they did not want to waste the listeners' and readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions. That does not sound like an unbiased opinion. That sounds like a partisan opinion to me. And this is a taxpayer-funded organization. In 2018, that same CEO that you're talking about called the president in the Oval Office, who nearly 80 million Americans elected, she called him racist, shared a photo of herself wearing a Biden for President campaign hat, serves on the board of a Soros-funded activist group. In 2020, PBS's White House correspondent at the time characterized President Trump's speech then at Mount Rushmore as a love letter to white resentment, promoting the myth of America. In 2017, PBS devoted an entire panel talking about what it means to be woke and white privilege. These are not honest news organizations. These are partisan left-wing outlets that are funded by the taxpayers. And this administration does not believe it's a good use of the taxpayers' time and money.
NPR and PBS is that, to your point, they can say whatever they want. We have a First Amendment right. You can spew all kinds of leftist nonsense if that's what you want to do. You have the First Amendment right to do that. But you don't have a constitutional right to our tax dollar.
The question is on the adoption of the resolution. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I ask for a recorded vote.
The recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is in order. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
House members now voting on final passage of the $9 billion spending cuts package, also known as a rescissions bill. It includes cuts of $1.1 billion in previously appropriated funding for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which helps support National Public Radio and the Public Broadcasting Service, as well as grants to local public radio and television stations. The legislation also slashes $7.9 billion in foreign aid, coming largely from funds to support the U.S. Agency for International Development.
A few moments later.
The ayes are 216. The nays are 213. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Pursuant to the adoption of House Resolution 590, the Senate amendment to H.R. 4 is considered as agreed to.
This is the end of a publicly funded media era. This dates back to the days of black and white television. You know, back in the 60s, Congress saw a value for PBS and NPR, but no more. As a result of this rescission, radio and TV stations will have to lay off staffers and cut back on programming. Some smaller stations will suffer more than bigger stations.
Oh, well.